pull on that jersey, you represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
And here we go.
And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Nobody ever tells me anything. I'm your host of the program, Tyler Falk. Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit of technical difficulties earlier. I apologize for that, but show must go on. We're back, and it's a full week that we've been doing the show now, instead of just once a week. And I appreciate everyone who stuck by the show throughout the ups and downs this week and through the some would say controversial, some would say suspect predictions. But we'll go over that. We'll go over a couple other things as well. But again, it's Friday. Happy Friday. We are just a day away, less than 24 hours away from season 18, when all the talking heads, myself included, will have to stop talking and allow for season 18 to begin to play itself out. And all the predictions, all the hot takes, all the power rankings, all the opinions go out the window. Game plans, the players, they make the plays. It's not us talking heads that have the final say. There's no way that my predictions will ever come true. If I predicted an entire season to go perfectly the way I want it to, I'd be out of a job. I'd probably be doing something else. I'd probably be, what's that one movie? I can't think of the one movie where. Now, Futurama parodied it beautifully. You got the robots sitting in the pool, and you got balls popping up left and right like power balls, and it's full of different predictions. They're all true or somehow fabricated. I'm not going to go too much into it, but you get what I'm saying, right? I can't be perfect with these predictions. I can't say that for certainty Mexico City's going to win the championship. I can't say for certainty that Jacksonville is going to get the number 1 overall pick. I can't say for certainty that Louisiana's 2-back system is going to go perfectly. You know, there's a lot of stuff I'm going to be wrong about. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be proven wrong about. Putting Charleston at 17, that's not to say in the power rankings I'm talking about. To put Charleston at 17 is not, a slight against Charleston. That's where I think their club is at this point in time coming into the season. It's not to say that they had one of the top 5 defenses in the league last season, and that I'm saying, just because I don't like Charleston, I'm putting them at 17. I think Charleston's going to have a tough schedule. I think, just like all seasons in the past of the SFL, that things are going to change. Teams are going to get better. Teams like, teams they barely beat, like Carolina last season, might actually come up and beat them. And resurgent teams like Portland might beat them. And then again, Charleston might prove me wrong and go 9-3, or heck, they might go 12-0. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, will you? I did make one journalism error while making the power rankings. I was incorrect in assuming that Mighty was the offensive coordinator for season 17. I know that's someone else. And, that did affect my power rankings just a bit. But at the same time, those power rankings are not to say, Florida's a 6 overall team because they're not going to win as many games. I think Florida's a top 3 team. In the power rankings, I made a mention on the show for those that listen to the show that these are where I think the teams are set up the best for season 18. I even said that Louisiana, who is one spot above them at number 5, is a wild card. Louisiana could easily be outside the top 12 if the 2-back system doesn't work. It's the nature of the beast, right? So again, the one journalism mistake I made, that's on me. The opinions, that's what we're here to talk about. And of course, it wouldn't go without a Friday edition of NETMA without a brand new segment called Now You Know. And it's going to run something like this. I'm going to make predictions on how I think the games are going to go. Except instead of picking, which team is going to win outright, I'm going to pick against the spread. So, of course, we have to bring in the official analytical wing of the SFL, who have presided spreads and over-unders for a few seasons now. That'd be JaxData. JaxData have willingly and thankfully given me their splits and spreads early, and so as we go through them, we'll tell you who's got the advantage according to JaxData, according to the analytics, and we're going to talk about each matchup a little bit independently. So, without further ado, let's get to game number 1. The champion of season 17, Baltimore, are going up against London. Now, it probably goes without surprise that I pick Baltimore, who is currently in the eyes of JaxData. They have a 6.5 point advantage over London, and they are also the home team, though at home field advantage rarely gets taken into account with all the recent changes nowadays. But I think home field advantage does have something to say in recent matchup history. These two clubs have faced each other 3 times the past 2 seasons, 2 times in season 17, of course, when divisions got made. London was the team that Baltimore faced twice. In all 3 matchups, all 3 of those matchups from season 16 through season 17 were won by the home team. In those matchups, it was a 7-point or greater difference between the 2 clubs. I don't think that changes. Baltimore gets a couple, new additions. They don't really lose too many key pieces in the offseason. So having people on the roster, Ivory Irvin, Daley Holder, Mac Chima still around, Lloyd Grad Jr. The only addition to the offense is John Michael Sudduth. So the offense is set up well. Defense makes a couple of adjustments. They bring in Enzo Bolt and Elijah Warfield from the rookie ranks, and they're going to provide some depth into the defensive core. And I think Baltimore is set up I think they're going to control the football game. We shouldn't see a whole lot of surprises. It's going to be a factor is London's air raid offense, where we saw it late on in the season where they would slowly but surely remove every single traditional running play for the most part from a couple of their games last season. Robert Merrill had the lowest rushing totals amongst halfbacks in the league, had 1 yard shy in total of 500 rushing yards. And of course, he's more involved in the passing game as he's a former wide receiver. So it's a battle of, does the air raid offense work against a dominant Vulture ball club, kind of like how it worked in season 12, or not season 12, but week 12, or is Baltimore just going to kind of control the game? With that being a spread of 6.5, I'm taking the points. Baltimore, I think, does enough to beat London on opening day. All right, number 2 is going to be LA and Charleston. Now, I already mentioned how Charleston fans feel a little slighted for being put 17th in the power rankings, and again, their defense is phenomenal. What hasn't been as good as season 16 compared to season 17 is their offense. Their offense declined a little bit in terms of a lot of categories. They went from scoring 22.5 points a game to just under 21 points a game, a slight decrease that put them at 20th in the league in points per game. They went from having the best offense in terms of turnovers given up to one of the worst offenses in terms of turnovers, from going from 20 turnovers all total on offense to 33 in year 17. I've mentioned that Buchanan Simons had a little bit of a down year. That's in terms of touchdowns. In terms of receiving yards, he was just right there. He wasn't able to find the end zone as much. Their rushing attack, however, that's the one thing that really surprised me from season 16 into season 17 as they come into season 18 is their rushing attack. Close to 100 yards a game on the ground. So Keith Swearingen is becoming, more of a focal point. That was the first top 10 rusher they had in the league since season 14. So good news on that front for the Predators. For Los Angeles, they have not beaten Charleston since they became the Lycans. Again, prior to Los Angeles being Los Angeles, they were Chicago. And Chicago's record against Los Angeles was much better. They hadn't lost to Charleston since while they were the Wildcats. So a different change of fortunes, different regimes mean that Charleston has scored, they're almost dressed to nines. In fact, they've scored 19 points, and 29 points against Los Angeles in the 3 recent matchups. And Los Angeles haven't scored more than 13. I don't expect that to change. Charleston with a 3.5 point advantage. Take Charleston against the spread. All right. Move on to Arizona and Tulsa. Tulsa had the first overall picked Douglas Brown this past offseason. He should do pretty well for Tulsa. He's going up against a very tough defensive-led team by Eddie Gage. And Eddie Gage jumps in, says, hello, hi, Eddie. And, of course, it's well known by now that Eddie likes to run a fantastic defense. One thing that he is maybe I wouldn't say unhappy about, but kind of sad to see go would be Bernard Smith out of the defensive backfield. They do go out in free agency and bring in Sean Allen, who was fantastic, I believe, for Portland, if my memory / research serves me right, a season ago. And so they replace a great DB with another great DB. Arizona has the advantage here with 7.5 points. The home team has won the last 3 contests, and 2 of those contests were by Arizona. They both scored both of those last 2 games, actually really high scoring, 70 points plus in the last 2 matches between the 2 ball clubs. Expect a lot of fireworks possibly in this football game, but I think 7.5 points is a good wide enough number for Arizona to easily surpass. Tulsa, we'll see if some changes in the offseason helped a little bit. Hopefully for Tulsa's sake, they get back on the up. Tulsa haven't had a winning season since their inaugural season back in season 10. All right, on to game number 4. That is Sioux Falls and Louisiana. And this is where things get interesting, right? Louisiana have a 10.5 point advantage in terms of the spread provided by JaxData. However, Louisiana has yet to beat Sioux Falls in their 4 other matchups against the club. Louisiana changing up a couple things. Colin Hart no longer part of the program, of course, now in Louisiana, so this is not really a homecoming, but former ball club comes into his new digs. We'll see how that happens. How Sioux Falls is definitely changing up a couple things. GP Wells is more of a speedy back compared to Colin Hart. So I expect Sioux Falls to cover the spread. Maybe not to win, but I expect this game to be a lot closer than the spread suggests. I'd hope Louisiana comes out with the victory, but I think Sioux Falls comes out and covers the spread. Sioux Falls, with all 4 victories in the matchup history, last 2 matchups have come on the road, once in the playoffs back in seasons 15 and once in week 9 in season 16. So 2 seasons removed from the 2 ball clubs meeting up against each other. Expect the Sparrows to cover the spread, in my opinion. All right, Vancouver, Carolina, next game on the docket. Vancouver has not lost to Carolina at all. They've played 3 times in their matchup history, so 2 similar games back-to-back, Sioux Falls and Louisiana, Vancouver, Carolina. However, Vancouver has clearly been the better team in terms of Carolina. Carolina has only 1 winning season on its history, the rest of which have been below 500. Meanwhile, Vancouver is on a nice run of form with 4 straight seasons of being over 500. So Andy Hamilton's crew looking to continue that run of form. 3 out of the 4 seasons, actually, they've finished 8-4. So maybe that's their calling card, if you will. for Vancouver, we know how much of a high-flying offense they can be. Tom Pepper and Robert Redford do fantastically well as a throwing and rushing combo. Vancouver are right there at either leading the league or right as the runner-up in terms of points per game, passing yards per game, total yards per game, and passing touchdowns per game. So it's clear, it's almost cut and dry that Vancouver should take this 7.5-point spread over Carolina. Carolina, meanwhile, have yet to get within 3 points since their first contest with Vancouver, where they lost 20-23 back all the way in season 13. Moving on to the Las Vegas game. Final game on Saturday for the SFL's not inaugural season, but season 18 debut. Words are hard. I'm sorry. St. Louis versus Las Vegas. Las Vegas have a 3.5-point spread, and I think St. Louis is going to cover. Let me tell you why. Last 3 matchups have gone the way of the visitors. Their entire history, they've played 5 times. The away team has won 4 out of the 5 times. The only team to win at home, St. Louis. And Las Vegas has only played one of those games at home. So this is a much needed reprieve in terms of matchup history where they get to come back home. Things to look out for. Las Vegas' Joseph Green gets into his sophomore season. And for Joseph Green, what we're going to need to see is, his development. He was last in sacks. He was sacked the most times in the league last season with 47 total sacks. They could not keep him clean. What's a good thing going from him? He was not one of the top quarterbacks in terms of interceptions. He kept those to a minimal 26 all told, putting him as the 11th best quarterback in that category. Did not complete a whole lot of passes, only 269, which puts him 21st in terms of quarterbacks compared to his compatriot, Christian Brown, who passed for 439 times, completed 308, which led to a 70% completion percentage, a very good number for Christian Brown. He also had 23 touchdowns, 8th in the league, but was intercepted more than Joseph Green, 31 times all told. One thing for St. Louis that maybe will be on their side is their defense. They don't give up yards, or did not give up a whole lot of yards on the ground and just yards in general. They led the league on defense in those 2 categories. So for Las Vegas, this will probably be a very tight game to watch. This one over on SFL YouTube for a late nighter on Saturday. Go ahead and check this game out. I think St. Louis cover the spread. It's a very tight spread, and maybe it'll come back to bite me. But St. Louis with 3.5 points as a 3.5-point dog, I think cover the spread. All right, on to Florida and San Diego, and I'm picking San Diego as a 7.5-point dog to cover the spread, because the only 2 times these teams have ever matched up is San Diego's inaugural season, where unfortunately they went 0-12. It's a much different team. There have been a lot of lessons learned. Liam Hammer's come in, and they're coming in riding a whole lot of momentum from the end of season 17, where they have won 3 out of their last 5 games. Florida, very tough to play against. I don't expect them to lose this game. Florida, of course, only ranks 6 in terms of teams that, I called it power rankings, but teams that I think are best set up going into season 18. For Florida, their offense is dynamite. Their defense can be a little shaky at times. They give up, they're on the back half of teams that give up passing yards. 287 puts them 15th in the league last season. Rushing yards, usually around 104 yards per game, with 391 yards. For San Diego, with the new additions, with Gunnar Lewis coming over from Sioux Falls, how much is that going to impact their offensive production? Hopefully it adds another weapon to the pod, as Optimus Klein also goes back from tight end back to his original position at wide receiver. That can only mean good things for the Mavs, and hopefully they give us a good show and get under 7.5 points. I think it's doable. We'll have to see. I don't think San Diego will win. It'll be a fun contest to watch, no doubt. All right, game number 8, Houston, D.C. DC are 3.5-point favorites. And just like the previous matchup, these two teams have only met up once. DC winning on the road in season 16, 17-12. So not a whole lot of history. DC in their return, both seasons they've gone 3-9, but they've lost a lot of close games in that time frame. They've gotten up to speed as far as game planning really well. They just been unlucky, in my opinion. Their offense is for DC is no slouch. They're in the top 10 or just outside the top 10 in all their offensive categories from a season ago. They're second in terms of third down conversions, which is something they'll need to go up against Houston rather well, who was one of the best teams last season. Sixth place all told, gave up less than 50% on third down. So it'll be a fun matchup. Maybe another tight ball game once again between the two ball clubs. 3.5. It might be a stretch, but I think DC comes out with the victory and scores more than 3.5 points to beat the spread. Okay. Pick number 9 on the back half, and this is my best bet. And unfortunately for JaxData, I'm picking against their ball club. Portland are 6.5 point favorites. Portland, again, no matchup history to go by for these two clubs. It's the first time they're meeting. Jacksonville had their first losing season in around 5 years, dating all the way back to season 7, was when they had their last losing season. Losing seasons are not something that Jacksonville is accustomed to. Quarterback change from seasons 16 to 17. Marcus Dunhill comes into the fold. They lose a lot of their defensive core. At linebacker, they lose a few more pieces in the offseason. This past offseason, it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. I'm picking Portland to win by a touchdown, of course. And for Portland, Portland is just there. They had not a whole lot of statement wins. In fact, both of these ball clubs only had one victory against teams above 500. I think it was Jacksonville, if I did my math correct, were 1-7 against teams over 500. Portland 1-6 against teams above 500 last season. So both teams are at 500 and above, I should say. So Portland and Jacksonville, both teams as 500 or lower last season. I think Portland takes the lead. We'll have to see if OJ Bruin can improve from a season ago. He was dead last in completions, attempts, yards in that category. Hopefully he's improved in the offseason. For Marcus Dunhill, in a valiant effort, no doubt, second in completions and attempts, all told, though he was around middle of the pack for completion percentage, just under 70%. I think Ezekiel Love, leading rusher from a season ago, gets the job done. Portland takes the victory. Okay. Last 3 games, we'll start with Atlanta and Denver. Atlanta has only won 1 game out of the 3 matchups. Denver winning the other 2 matchups in this matchup history. Atlanta with a 7.5 point favorites, according to JaxData. I'm giving Atlanta the victory, though it should be close. I'm thinking around maybe 9-10 points, splitting the 2 ball clubs, as these games between them have been 7 points or more in terms of margin of victory between the 2 ball clubs in their matchup history. Eric Price's development will be key. He performed very well as a quarterback in his his first season. If I'm correct. Yep, his first season. We'll see how his sophomore season goes. It'll be kind of like OJ Bruin in a way. How will these sophomore quarterbacks develop? How has the game plan changed to maybe better suit them? Denver coming off a very strong late end of their season, and we cannot, of course, count out Bryant Dynasty, who had the number 1 QBR at all told last season. Atlanta's offense in general, top 10 in every single offensive category, and all but 1 category for their defense. Atlanta is a tough nut to crack. They should be a tough nut to crack this season. And I give the victory, including on spread, outright to Atlanta. Okay. Last 2 games. Game number 11 on the slate. This is taking place on Monday. Game 7 through 12 are taking place on Monday. Martin Luther King Day. League planning to do something special on that day. And Next Level Sports will also be doing the same as well. Fort Worth given a 7.5 point favorite over Mexico City. I think that's a mistake. Fort Worth, the home team. They've only been the home team in this scenario. 1-1 the matchup history. Mexico City winning last year's contest, 28-10. And for Fort Worth, they had a good defense in season 16. Season 17, it was around the same. They were in near or around the top 10 for a lot of their defensive categories. Where they struggled mightily was their offense. They bring in a couple of new guys, including Mike Twinscrew, to help out the offense and provide scouting for Fort Worth. We'll see how that goes. Johnny Reno, the new quarterback. Brand new quarterbacks, it is to be said, turn out to be have either a knock-on effect of either being, okay or being leading teams to playoffs. So hopefully Reno can do that for the Toros, and hopefully their offense can get back on track. I don't see how you pass hashtag throw with the tight end between Matt Wilson and Mike Daggs. And Bill Henry really impressed me at the end of last season. Expect a lot of passes to tight end and expect Mexico City to come out with the victory. All right, final matchup of the night. Lone Star with another 6.5 point advantage over Queen City. Queen City started out last season very strong, winning 6 straight, and then just had a little bit of a slide down into in the second half of the season, losing 3 straight, including Las Vegas in the opening round of the playoffs this past season. Lone Star given the advantage. I think it's going to be close. The home team has won in every single matchup in this history. 6 games all told, the previous matchups all told, including a championship between the Dallas Roughnecks, now known as Lone Star, and Queen City. But I think this is where this bucks the trend. I think Queen City is going to put on a fantastic performance against Lone Star. I think they cover the spread easily. Lone Star needing a little bit of help in some areas, finished 6-6. Queen City finished 8-4. I think Queen City covers the spread, possibly even wins this football game. Queen City first in turnovers given up by their offense, first into the turnover differential in general. Third in rushing offense, led by Jet Zero. They were first in terms of their defense, allowing rushing touchdowns. Without Sudanukai as a fullback, they bring in Mateo Pravado, another Marine veteran comes into Lone Star. I think it's going to be close, no doubt, but I think Queen City has enough talent to cover the spread, and I think the stats back it up. Okay, that's going to do it for tonight. No show Monday, as of course that is going to be all up to the league. League's got games going on Monday, and so our next show will be coming on Tuesday when we recap all the games from week 1. I give my takes and everything, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong on a couple of things. You guys let me know if you guys have any questions. Go ahead, let me know in the show questions channel in the NETMA Discord. Also, link to that is down below. If you want to join the SFL or get more information, go ahead and jump on the official website for the Simulation Football League. Link to that is also down below. But folks, that is just about gonna do it for this week. A full week of shows. All right, everybody. Week 1 starts tomorrow. I hope to see you all there. And I hope to see you all next week as NETMA gets rolling once again on Tuesday. And until then, everybody stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow for opening day of the Simulation Football League. Until then, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, ladies and gentlemen.